Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Burn the Ship. This is a podcast where we focus on connecting entrepreneurs with professionals that can help you go all in here. I have a new friend of mine, new connection of mine, willing to kind of tell us her business experience, what her business does, and help us kind of learn from the things that she's been through. Always very appreciative of our guests, so I appreciate the time that you have for us here today. Our audience always finds little pieces of gold through everyone that comes on as a guest on the podcast. So I appreciate you. So without stealing all of your thunder, why don't you go ahead and tell us who you are and what your business is?
Sure. Well, thanks so much for having me. My name's Elsa Elbert. I'm the founder and CEO of Composed Living, and we're a Los Angeles-based professional organizing company. We've been in business this is our sixth year. What else? So really what the business does is help people simplify their lives so that they're kind of functioning at their best in their homes, but also like with their time management and household management. So we just give them awesome systems that are sustainable and easy to maintain so that they have more of their free time back. Some more of that like mental clarity that comes with living in a really beautifully organized space. How did we did you ask how we got started?
Yeah,
Am I
tell
jumping
me a
jumping
little.
ahead of the ship?
No, just tell me a little bit about yourself and kind of how your business
How it
started and
came
kind
to
of how you
be?
guys started growing. Yeah, absolutely.
So I started my career about 20 years ago, actually in the healthcare industry. And I worked basically always as like a head of operations and customer service. Started in healthcare for the majority of my career and then moved into telecom, fintech. I went back to school and got a master's in organizational leadership. And I realized that my like superpower is giving people the best tools and the best systems to get whatever the task is done in the most efficient, simple way. And so I did that for huge corporations for a long time. I did that with the teams of people that I managed. And then I came to realize, with more and more experience that, while I appreciate having that skill set, my passion was also working one on one with people. So it ended up being more of like a leadership role and human development. And I realized that I could take the same set of skills and translate it into a very personal setting, which is working with people in their homes and helping to sort of manage their personal lives a little bit better. So that's how Composed Living came to start. Although I was very nervous to go from having a pretty high paying salary and like, you get a paycheck every 2 weeks and health benefits and like all these wonderful perks to all of a sudden just being like, am I going to make any money at all doing this thing? And so I stayed working for 2 years. For the first 2 years of having Composed Living up and running, I still had a full time job where I was a head of customer experience for a startup bank here in Los Angeles. And it was challenging. I mean, I think I'm glad in some aspects that I did kind of ease into it because I emotionally needed to get to a place where I would be confident enough and like ready to go all in. And actually be able to have the stamina to like go through all of the ups and downs of starting your own thing from scratch. So it kind of allowed me to like ease in a little bit and really come up with like exactly the clientele I wanted to help and, create the business in a way that felt really like meaningful and intentional to me. But there's also a lot of downsides to doing it that way. Like I think it slowed the growth of the business. So a lot of
Sure.
times when I think about where we are in our progress, I think we're really just starting our fourth year because
Hmm.
I didn't have that much time to
Yeah, the
devote
first two don't count.
to, yeah.
Yeah, that
So I
makes
think
sense.
there's pros and cons. Uh, I was nervous to leave behind a pretty successful career and then have the risk of failing at something new. But, taking 2 years to ease into it doesn't prevent you from the possibility of failure. It really just kind of
Sure.
slows how quickly you'd be able to succeed. But ultimately it gave me, like I said, the emotional time that I needed to really let go of like what that means to be like a vice president in a corporation or to have a steady salary. Like I think a lot of times we sort of tie up our own value as people with like how much we're producing and how much we're putting out into the world. And it's very different when you have a startup company and you're like, I made $100 or like
Absolutely.
whatever your parameters are. It's like you have to really start viewing your worth in a different way and really start celebrating all the small wins that maybe you weren't used to celebrating
For
before.
sure. For sure. So tell me a little bit about like the structure of your company now. What have you guys kind of grown into and what is your day to day like?
So it's changed a lot, especially over the last year. I realized pretty quickly that, we're a service based business, which means like we're in people's homes physically, and it's a pretty physically demanding job as well. So I realized that I would not be able to sustain this for the next 20 years if I was actually the person going out and doing all of the projects. That's also really limiting for how I could scale the business. So now we have a team of 12 organizers. We have a couple of project leads who actually manage each individual client. We have an office manager who does everything from HR and payroll to really the whole client experience at this point. And we have a social media person who handles all of our accounts. It's like so many social media accounts. Uh, and so my day to day now is managing the team of people. I do work with some of our longer standing clients still, but really it's more just like quality assurance, training, hiring. And then I'm also by default sort of like our head of marketing. So coming up with new service offerings, updating the website, making sure that blogs and newsletters and all that stuff are going out consistently, having conversations like this with people and
Sure.
just thinking of ways to keep growing the business, which is what I enjoy the most. So
Sure, absolutely. So what is the scale that you guys need to operate to be kind of where you want to be? Are you guys working with 10 clients at a time or 100 at a time? Kind of what is that scale?
So, where I would like to be by the end of this year is that we're booking about 10 projects every week.
Okay.
Most of the time, a client project will wrap up in one full day. Sometimes, if it's like a big move in or something, it'll take a few days. But that would mean that we would have doubled our profit margin from last year,
Oh wow.
which would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, from the business owner side of things, take me back to, year two, where you're transitioning into this full time business owner space, even though you've kind of gotten your feet wet in your industry for a while. What was that transition like? What was it scary? And kind of what were some of the biggest growing pains?
It was scary. I was really nervous. I placed a lot of unnecessary stress on myself, I think, about as far as like my obligation to my team at the other company, as
Hmm.
opposed to like my obligation to myself to start this business. But once I just kind of like pulled the plug and gave my notice, then I just felt such a huge relief. Like I didn't realize the burden of carrying two full-time jobs emotionally, because even though you're working at another company, by the time you get home, then it's like I wanted to start, building out the website or booking more clients or responding to things. So I felt like I never stopped working. And that was also kind of a strain on my family. We had young kids at the time. And so I was just always on my phone, trying to do something. So it was really a relief to finally just say, this is what I do full time, and this is what I'm devoting my energy to. And then the biggest growing pains, I think, were not investing financially in myself from the beginning. So I did every single thing myself. The only initial startup costs we had was the expense of getting a Squarespace website, just a few $100s. And then I built the website. I mean, I spent hours just researching like best fonts to use and the psychology of colors and all
Hmm.
these things. Uh, and that it was an interesting learning experience. I'm glad that I did it, but also, I think I got in the way of my own growth in those first 2 years because I could have hired someone who like that is their area of expertise and they could have done everything so much faster.
Sure.
And I could have just been involved in the process and given, my 2 cents. But it takes a really long time if that's not your area of expertise. And So, on the one side, I don't have any debt for the business, which is really wonderful. Um, but there are definitely times where I wish that I would have invested a little bit more in the beginning and gotten the help that I needed in areas where it's not my strong suit, like social media, marketing, kind of like the whole growth plan.
Sure, that
And then I
makes
think,
sense.
we'd probably be where we are now, just a year or two faster. But
Sure.
here we are. Here
That
we are
makes a lot
anyway.
of sense. What would you say has been like your biggest skill? Like something that you've done exceptionally well that's kind of helped you persevere through some of these challenges and difficulty growing because of the kind of the pace that you were forced to grow your business.
Well, two things. I think one, I'm an extremely organized person, which should not be surprising.
It bodes well for
But,
your brand,
like
that's for sure.
I really excel at keeping all of the moving parts on track, of never missing deadlines, always following through on things. And so I think that has really helped the business to run smoothly. I also, just like having been in business for so long, I understood like the ins and outs of the legalities of starting a business and like filing for an S corp and getting a trademark and all of these things, where I think that can be probably complicated for people who like don't love paperwork or don't do a good job of following up on those things. So I would say, like, if that's not your area of expertise, I would definitely either talk to like a trademark attorney or a CPA, like someone who can help you with these things and stay on top of deadlines. Otherwise, it gets pretty complicated and can be really frustrating.
Sure.
It's also just so much paperwork to run a
Yeah,
business.
absolutely. I think a big part of that is like on the organization side of your business too, is that you're able to manage and facilitate so many like interactions between people. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you actually have to develop a brand and a culture within your business that kind of stands for the product that you're rendering for people. You know what I mean? So like you kind of have to
absolutely.
walk it and talk it at the same time, if that makes sense for lack of a better phrase.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Well, that is exciting, my friend. Where are you guys headed today? So you're focused a lot on growth. You're bringing more people into the team, obviously, to fulfill those orders and jobs. Where are you guys mostly? You're mostly in that LA area, I'm assuming.
We are mostly in LA. We are working on some fun projects that will be accessible to everyone, regardless of where you are. My personal favorite is the just like one-on-one coaching with people. So that's going to be a service offering that we have coming out in the next couple of weeks, where you can just book like a Zoom call with me, and we can just do like a 30-minute or a 1 hour session, kind of FaceTime your house, talk about your biggest pain points, and just give you immediate feedback on what I think you could do to improve the space. And then you can do it in your own time and on your own budget. But really, it's like I love that the one-on-one connection with people, I think,
Sure.
is so special. And then we're also offering a whole, it's our spatial wellness series, but I've done years of research on all the like traditional feng shui principles, and I realize how complicated it can be for people to like not know where to even get started. And so we distilled it down into this like modern, simple approach, where like if you just wanted to make more money, for example, then you can just like read this little guide, and it has really simple, easy to follow tips where you can just like energize that part of your house using things that you already have. So that's been like my passion project that has been
Sure.
really fun.
Absolutely. I'm excited about that. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
I'm interested in learning a little bit about that myself. So that's pretty cool. You kind of have your backyard narrowed down, your market narrowed down. You guys are growing in the right direction. You have all that infrastructure that you need to grow a small business. Uh, what is next for you? Because I see like the big thing for you has kind of been providing value to people. You know what I mean? And I hear you say that you're adding some kind of value added services around some of those things. Where do you see like the rubber meeting the road where your business, let's say you hit all your goals this year, your business gets exactly to where you want it to, and you guys are running and thriving, and you have time to really repurpose and reallocate to kind of bring a new mission to your business. Where do you see yourself kind of growing up then? Because it seems like with all the organization that you're putting in place, there's going to be a point to your business where sustainability and a week long vacation, you're not going to be, stressed about what's going on behind the scenes at home. You have the people in place that are going to be able to take care of that for you. So where do you see kind of adding your next why?
That's such a good question. I've actually not even really talked to anyone about this yet, but I think for me, having a home that you're proud of, a home that makes you feel safe and comfortable and like where you're just relaxing with your family is so important to having a life that you enjoy. I have a brother who's a contractor, and we've been playing around with the idea of kind of buying some properties to really just like transform together, where I can do all of the design and the layout and the interior organizing, and he can do all the building. Uh, so that we can either like, have them available for rentals for people, or, even like long-term living situations, especially in Los Angeles. It's so difficult to find affordable housing. Uh, or even just like, I don't know, a mountain retreat somewhere. Who knows?
That's pretty
I
cool.
just love
That's
love transforming spaces and love being able to provide that to people. So
sure.
it'd also be really wonderful to work with family. And so maybe that's next.
That actually makes a lot of sense. That's exciting for you. So tell me, how do we kind of bottle up this, what you've learned from being a business owner and kind of the tribulations and growth phases that you've been through? How do we bottle some of that up and teach some of the business owners that are listening today how to kind of implement some of that structure within their own business? What should these new business owners be looking out for?
I mean, I think if I could give just one piece of advice, it would be that you really need to believe in yourself and what you're doing. And it's not enough to just say, I believe in myself. You should invest in your own business the same as you would by investing your time into somebody else's business. Understand what your strengths are. And if it's not your area of expertise, it's more expensive for you to try and figure out how to do it on your own than it is to just hire the person where that's where they're going to really come in and be a game changer for you.
Sure.
But I was very nervous to invest financially into my company, and I can see in hindsight that it really slowed our progress. Uh, but just hire where you need to hire, because that's not your strength, and trust those people, and trust that you have a great idea, and there's a reason the idea came into your head and why you're putting this thing out into the world.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Well said, my friend. Well said. So tell our audience, how do they get a hold of you if they want to buy something from you or into their services, or if they just kind of want to pick your brain as a business owner? Where do people find you?
Sure. So our website is just composedliving.com. Instagram is probably our most frequently used social media channel, and that's just at composed_living. But we're everywhere. I'm pretty sure we're even on TikTok. They
Wow.
can email me too, but all the contact information is all up on the website. The first few of our feng shui downloads are up on the website and live now. And then there's a whole bunch of free resources on there. But yeah, if anyone has questions and just wants to chat one business owner to another, then they can email me through there.
Thank you. I appreciate that on behalf of the audience there. It's a ton of value packed in. I'm sure there's some people that'll take you up on some of your time.
I hope
The
so.
last thing I wanted to ask you was, if you're summing up what it was like for you to burn the ship, how would you kind of sum up that experience of burning the ship and go all in on your experience? And why should the people in our audience burn the ship and go in all in on their business as well?
I think when in one word, it was thrilling. I was so nervous going into it. And I thought, like, how could the world continue without me doing this thing for somebody else? Until one day I woke up and realized that that put a limit on myself. I would never be able to get to the level that I wanted to be at working for somebody else, because it would always be somebody else's company. Uh, yeah, and it was thrilling. I felt so energized. You feel a little bit like a superhero, like, yes, I am doing this thing and it's all mine. And like, I created this whole thing out of nothing. Uh, and then you find your community of people who are also doing the same thing, and there's such a wonderful support network for you, and you realize that there's like entire community of entrepreneurs out there who are all supporting each other and cheering for each other. And It feels much more like community than competition, and it's so beautiful.
Absolutely. I agree. It's a really unique situation as a business owner. The amount of support that you receive when you just put the word out there and tell people what you're doing, that you need help. I've found that the people really close to me were super supportive early on, and that helped me kind of bide the time as I was learning my industry and my craft and what I wanted my business to be, and all of those things. So I agree. I concur with everything you said. Pretty much this whole podcast. You have a unique outlook and skill set that you learned in that corporate position that you're able to implement in a small business setting that has been successful for you. And I think there's a ton of people out there in the world that have that same skill set and are probably still tied up in that same mindset that you were of, I have this sort of responsibility to this bigger organization than myself. But at the end of the day, it's yours. Now it's yours. You are that guy, and you are the person that has the ability to provide these opportunities for other people that are working for you and with you. So it's an incredible thing. So I appreciate you being on the podcast, my friend. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you letting people know where they can find you, where they can talk to you at. This has been time well spent. We'll get this out to as many people as we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day. All right. Let's burn the ship, everybody. I'll take it easy.